Alright, so the streaming world has basically imploded over the past week, and I need to talk about this because it's genuinely one of the most insane situations I've seen unfold in a very long time. We're talking about Emiru and Mizkif, two massive Twitch streamers, and allegations that are so serious, they make your average internet drama look like a disagreement over pizza toppings. So let's set the stage here. October 17th, TwitchCon is happening in San Diego. Emiru is doing a meet and greet, you know, the standard convention stuff where creators meet their fans. Everything seems normal until some guy just walks past multiple security barriers, past other creators, past lines of people, and goes straight up to Emiru and grabs her face trying to kiss her. Just walks right up like he's going through the express lane at a grocery store. Emiru screams, her personal security guard pushes the guy away, and then here's where it gets even more unbelievable. The TwitchCon security staff just lets him walk away. They literally just let him leave. Like they witnessed an assault and thought, yeah, that's fine, let him go grab a pretzel or whatever. Emiru later comes out and absolutely destroys Twitch's response to this. Twitch puts out a statement saying they immediately detained the guy, and Emiru just calls it a blatant lie. She says the guy walked away from her meet and greet and wasn't caught until hours later, and only because her manager kept pushing for it. The TwitchCon staff apparently didn't even come check on her to see if she was okay. This is the same company that runs one of the biggest streaming platforms in the world, and they can't secure a meet and greet area. It's genuinely astounding. But that TwitchCon incident, as bad as it was, ends up being the catalyst for something way bigger. Because on October 25th, Emiru goes live and drops what I can only describe as a tactical nuke on the entire streaming community. She comes out and says she's been silent about this for over a year, but after the TwitchCon assault and hearing about new incidents, she can't stay quiet anymore. And then she just lists everything. Sexual assault, psychological abuse, domestic abuse, stalking, harassment, threats of blackmail, all allegedly done by Mizkif, who she confirms she was in a relationship with. She describes this one incident that's just genuinely horrible. She says she was crying on her couch, Mizkif came to comfort her, started holding her, then started kissing her face while she's sobbing, and then according to her, he suddenly tries to climb on top of her and aggressively puts his hand down her pants. She screams, he jumps off like nothing happened, says he feels weird like he did something wrong, and then just leaves. Doesn't apologize, doesn't check if she's okay, just walks out while she's still crying. That's the kind of thing that makes you lose faith in humanity a little bit. But it doesn't stop there. Emiru says Mizkif has been indirectly threatening her through mutual friends for months. She says he approached other streamers asking them to join a smear campaign against her if she ever spoke out, and apparently they all refused. She also mentions that at TwitchCon he threatened one of her employees, saying he would destroy her if she ever talked about him publicly. And get this, she says multiple people told her his backup plan was to accuse her of killing her own rabbits. Several of her rabbits died over 3 years while she lived with him, and his strategy was apparently going to be to claim she's an animal abuser. That's the level of calculated vindictiveness we're talking about here. Emiru shows screenshots of messages Mizkif sent her after she cut off contact, just repeatedly trying to reach out to her. She says she consulted with a lawyer about everything she was going to say, wanted to make sure she did it right because of how serious it all is, and she ends the stream by saying she's filing restraining orders against him in both California and Texas. Now Mizkif, to his credit I guess, responds the same day. He goes live for about 40 minutes and gives his side of the story. He admits the relationship was toxic, admits he was aggressive at times with his language and tone. He talks about how the relationship deteriorated after he got accused of covering up a different assault situation back in 2022, which added a ton of stress to both of them. He says they started fighting constantly, yelling at each other, that he would punch holes in walls and slam doors. But then he also says Emiru was violent too, that she would throw things at him. About the sexual assault allegations specifically, Mizkif says they had broken up, got back together, went to get food, came back to her house, cuddled and kissed for 30 minutes. He says he thought she was okay with everything and tried to advance things further. She yelped. He immediately jumped back, scared that he did something wrong, and then left. He apologizes for not saying sorry back then and for making her uncomfortable, but the way he frames it, he's basically saying it was a misunderstanding, that he thought she wanted to continue and misread the situation. He also makes this claim that near the end of their relationship, Emiru wrote down everything she wanted for their future, and apparently she wrote that she wanted to marry him and have kids within 5 years. He says that's when he realized the relationship couldn't continue and he walked away. He's essentially trying to paint a picture of mutual toxicity where both of them were doing bad things to each other. But here's the thing that really made people turn on Mizkif even harder. At the very start of his response stream before addressing anything, he says something like, "There's no holding back anymore, who cares? He'll expose everything about everyone," which is wild because one of Emiru's main allegations was that he was threatening to run smear campaigns and expose people. So his immediate response is to basically confirm that's exactly what he was planning to do. It's like being accused of being vindictive and your defense is to be vindictive. Really great strategy there. The community response has been pretty unified. People are overwhelmingly supporting Emiru and calling for Mizkif to be banned from Twitch. Even Asmongold, who's been friends with Mizkif for years and is a co-founder of their organization OTK, came out and apologized for platforming him. He said he always felt bad vibes between them but didn't know the extent of it, and that he made a mistake giving Mizkif the platform he did. Now, I think it's important to step back and look at the bigger picture here, because this situation is about way more than just two streamers having a toxic relationship. First off, the TwitchCon security failure is inexcusable. Emiru getting assaulted at an official Twitch event with their security doing basically nothing is a massive problem. She mentioned that her preferred security guard was actually banned from TwitchCon at a previous event because he grabbed a stalker's arm to bring him to police. So Twitch banned the guy for doing his job protecting a creator, but can't stop random people from walking up and assaulting streamers at their own event. That's backwards in every possible way. The CEO of Twitch, Dan Clancy, made things even worse by telling a reporter that streamers can control their community when they're live streaming, which people rightfully interpreted as victim blaming, like somehow Emiru is responsible for a random person assaulting her because she didn't control her community well enough. That's genuinely one of the most out-of-touch things I've ever heard from a platform CEO. And then there's the broader issue of how these situations play out in the streaming world. Emiru stayed silent for over a year because she was scared of retaliation, scared of causing drama, scared of what would happen if she spoke up. That's a problem. The fact that someone can allegedly be abused, assaulted, and threatened, but feels like they can't say anything because of the power dynamics and potential consequences, that's a systemic issue, and when they finally do speak up, they have to lawyer up first just to make sure they don't get destroyed legally or socially. This also isn't Mizkif's first rodeo with serious allegations. Back in 2022, there was that whole situation with his roommate Crazy Slick where Adriana Lee accused Mizkif of trying to cover up an assault. He went on leave from OTK, there was an investigation that didn't find evidence of a cover-up, but it damaged his reputation significantly, and now here we are again with new allegations that are even more direct and serious. At some point you have to look at the pattern. Here's my takeaway from all this. If you're in a position of power or influence, especially in spaces like streaming where there are massive imbalances between creators and their audiences, you have a responsibility to not abuse that power, and platforms like Twitch have a responsibility to actually protect their creators when they host events. The fact that Emiru had to bring her own security, that security wasn't even enough, and then Twitch lied about their response is completely unacceptable. These platforms make billions of dollars off the backs of creators, and they can't even keep them safe at their own conventions. And if you're someone who's been hurt, who's been in a toxic or abusive situation, I know it's terrifying to speak up, but situations like this show why it's important, because Emiru staying silent for a year didn't protect her. Mizkif allegedly kept threatening her, kept trying to contact her, kept trying to control the narrative. It wasn't until she spoke up publicly, with legal counsel, with evidence, that she could actually start to protect herself and potentially protect others. That's not to say everyone needs to go public with their trauma, but having the option to speak up safely should always be there. The streaming industry needs to do better. Platforms need to actually enforce safety measures. They need to stop victim blaming. They need to take allegations seriously instead of doing damage control for their image, and the community needs to support people when they come forward with serious allegations, instead of immediately jumping to defend their favorite creators just because they like their content. You can enjoy someone's streams and still hold them accountable when they allegedly do horrible things. This whole situation is just a reminder that behind the cameras, behind the personas, these are real people dealing with real problems. And when those problems involve abuse, assault, and harassment, it stops being drama and becomes something that actually matters. Emiru coming forward took courage, especially knowing the backlash she might face and the threats that were allegedly made against her. Hopefully this leads to some actual changes in how these situations are handled, both by platforms and by the community. But I'm not holding my breath. That's about it. See ya.